This time I'd like to call the Haley County Schools Board of Education to order. Special call meeting, October 17th. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Rogers if he would lead us in the board prayer, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the board prayer.
Let us pray. Kind and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight for this special meeting, Lord, we pray your guidance and direction upon us. Lord, we know within this county, within this region, there are still so many that are devastated, that have great losses. And Lord, we pray that you be with each and every one of those, with their families, be with their communities, be with the children of these schools. Lord, as we can see the joy and celebration of getting back into school this week, the smile upon children's faces, the togetherness, the united stand that this county has to remain strong and to be strong, Lord, that is with your guidance and your direction and uplifting us and holding us to high standards. And Lord, we thank you for all those things that you do for us. Again, Lord, sometimes it's hard to say thank you when we have a tragedy. But we all know you are still in control. And you're still guiding us and directing us and helping us to look upon you for guidance. Lord, help us make these decisions that we can continue to have the better and the great school system that we have. Be with each and every one of our staff of this school system in all walks, from cafeteria to custodial to bus drivers to teacher assistants, to central office staff. Everyone, Lord, that has worked so diligently to hold us together, keep us united, and to work together, this board, as we work together to help guide and direct our people to be the best that they can be. Lord, we will always give you the praise and the glory for all these blessings. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I'd like to thank everybody for being here this evening. The board, I've heard numerous times say we'll meet as many times as we need to meet during this emergency type situation to get these schools made whole as fast as possible. And so I appreciate that, board members, for that commitment, and our staff to that as well. I know they're working a tremendous number of hours, and we're getting our money's worth out of them, I can tell you that much. Another announcement I'd like to make is that Mr. Kirkpatrick is working hard tonight. He did call in earlier for some of the meetings so he could hear the discussion that was going on. But he's working tonight trying to restore, he works for AT&T, so I'm sure they're quite busy trying to restore internet and communications throughout the region. So Stephen, thank you for your hard work and dedication. But we understand that you're having to work at this point in time. Our next regular board meeting will be November 12th with the location to be determined. I think we've got some options there that we'll discuss at a future date to locate where we'll have to be having our meetings. Any other announcements at this time? I'd just like to say one more thing. We got our kids back in school this week, and what a great celebration. We saw so many. It was like the first day of school, and it was a celebration, and I think the kids really enjoyed it. The videos that I saw and the faces smiling, I just want to say to all those schools, thank you for your hard work and dedication. Under any other announcements, anybody got? All right, we got agenda adjustments. I know that we're going to add an item after number 17 for building and grounds. Is that correct? A couple of three?
We've got three motions.
All right, 3 items. under number 17. There is no personnel tonight, it's my understanding, so that'd be deleted, or is
Just
it?
strike that as well. That's
Okay,
correct. No
strike personnel. So there's no number 18 unless you want to just call the building and grounds items number 18, and that's what we'll do. So you're number 18, Mr. Building and Grounds. Okay. Are there any other adjustments that need to be made? I think we'll make some announcements along with building and grounds about things that we've learned from our staff and from our engineers. We'll make those announcements as they come up at that time as well, okay, Mr. Haynes?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other adjustments? Need a motion?
Chairman, at this time, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Ross, a second from Mr. Nesbitt to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously. Okay, next we have Ms. Barker on the agenda.
Yeah, Chairman Francis and members of the board, I just wanted to update you on your pupil reassignment and enrollment. I know Mr. Haynes handles pupil reassignment and I deal with enrollment, so we kind of cross up on this, but we just wanted to let you know our neighboring counties, as y'all know, some of them are still closed, and a lot of those people are having to work and trying to get their kids back in school. And so I just want to tell you, just to update you on what it's been like. So we've received several kids here in Haywood County that are homeless. And by that definition, it means they're in some temporary housing, they've doubled up with another family member. And so we have enrolled several kids. We've also enrolled some students that are staying in Airbnbs here because, you know, they still like water, electricity, and it's mostly from Buncombe is where we're seeing this. And so we have enrolled them as well. Otherwise, and you know, if people are coming, we've had several of our principals that have been approached, just, you know, they're not in school, can I bring them here? Well, it's, you know, that does not really fall under our policy. Our policy is a work or child care related hardship. And a lot of our classrooms, of course, we have to watch our class sizes too. Your pupil reassignment policy speaks if, you know, if our classes are full, then obviously that would be a reason to look at that closely. So we are trying to help people as much as we can. Dr. Putnam gathered how many extra classrooms we have at schools, and I think you shared that with Dr. Jackson. I don't know, or if he had any need for additional classrooms. And so right now, I know Ms. King ran some numbers on Monday, and I've looked at that. As far as our enrollment looked, there are absences that were up in a couple of our schools compared to a month ago, but there were some schools that absences were down. So, you know, it's really hard to say right now. Like, we know we've probably lost some students too that are living, you know, with relatives somewhere and displaced, and we're worried about that. We're worried about where people are going to rebuild and how long that's going to take. And but anyway, I just wanted to kind of update you on that, where we are right now with that, and answer any questions you have about enrollment, if you have any at all.
Do you have a number, like a ballpark of how many?
No, I think I
students?
will. If we get through this week, we are just transitioning into Infinite Campus, that new student information system, and yeah, I think we will. I think I will have that, because we're dying to know too. We've gotten some information from principals that have just been updating us, like, you know, we know they're living with an aunt, and Jeannie may know more. We're just really trying to help those families right now and figure out how we can get them to,
Many have had to leave the county to go live with family members in other states.
They have, and there's like, you know, there's a student at Riverbend who's still coming to Riverbend, but they've moved in with family on Allens Creek, and they're still trying to, you know, get to Riverbend. And so I know Ms. Cope's trying to help them find housing down there, and that's just where we are right now. So, you want to say anything about that?
No,
Ms. Wood?
I know that we have some student families who have moved in with some of our employees that are their family members. So we have employees who are housing some of their families. So it's just everywhere.
Yeah, but I will have some more information for when we get this full week and see what that looks like. But just to echo what you said, we were all out in the schools. You know, you have a natural disaster like this, and Dr. Putnam and I, Graham, really talked to the principals about how kids are affected by that. They're scared. They see a lot more than I did growing up on TVs, and You know, we really encourage our staff to let those kids talk and hook them up with, you know, people that they need to talk. And so it was really good to see them. I felt like the kids were happier than I've ever seen them on the first day of school. So, honestly, and it was really good to see them back. And I think the teachers were so appreciative to have the kids back in the room. So just a lot of good work out there in our schools. It felt really good to have them back. But.
So can you can let them stay temporarily, and then when they have, how does that, are they gonna try to finish out the year? Do you think most kids will?
See, I don't know, like the ones that are renting Airbnbs, I think it just depends on their housing situation, what that looks like. You know, we had heard too, you know, and you know, hadn't thought about this, but in other districts where they're not playing, I mean, there are athletes that are scrambling around looking for places to play, and it's just really affected kids, you know, across the western region a lot. So we want to help them any way we can. So we'll see. And but again, a lot of our kids, I'm sure there's several that we do know out there living away. So I'll try to keep y'all posted on that.
Thank
So
you.
I like the idea of even helping out our neighboring counties too with their children as much as we can.
Yeah, and
We'll
we,
make sure they get that education too as well.
you know, it is your policy. You know, if you wanted to suspend that and take every kid in, you know, that.
I wouldn't recommend
I
that.
mean, I think that would be hard. We've got, we have schools that we don't have teachers, you know, that we've got substitutes in right now. I think that, and where do you draw the line? And then, you know, I mean, I'm with you, I do want to do that, but then, you know, Miss Inman had texted me earlier and said that, you know, could we let some other students come take the PSAT, you know, with us? And I said, I don't mind that, you know, as long as, you know, we've got personnel to help cover that, that's a day. So, I mean, they think about that. I mean, that's something I thought of. They can't, you know, so we'll try to, things like that, absolutely. And if you want to, it's your policy. I just want to update you on, you know, kind of what that looked like.
If we did take in more students, would there be any additional funds from the state to cover some extra teachers or anything possibly?
Not for the current year, so we would have to provide support or additional personnel. That money wouldn't be reflected, it's paid in arrears,
Okay,
so.
so that would come out of local funds if we did that, or?
Correct.
Dr. Putnam, do you have an update on Buncombe County? That I heard they were drilling wells at their schools in order to try to get the kids back. Do you have any information?
I'm sure they are doing everything within their power to get them back in school. They're like us, they're no different. They want their kids back in school, they want their employees back at work. They want parents to resume their normal routines. The thing that is distinctively different between us and them is the water situation. And so that has created you know, you cannot operate schools or anything really without water. And so, you know, I've heard dates and times thrown around and discussed, but I certainly wouldn't want to speak for them. We would just do anything we could to assist, make their opening better or easier if we could.
I do know that part of West Asheville got the water back on today.
And I heard Ken, but again, that's all speculation.
Yeah, because there's a guy that stayed with us a few days, went to school and all this, lives in an apartment in West Asheville this morning. He said it was milky, but they got water.
Very good.
Thank you.
The thing you don't think about too is if you overload a classroom, that staff member's gonna be put in a bad place, really.
And I think we could say, you know, well, we're not gonna, you know, like, I know there's North Canton, you know, I think Miss Mann, you know, that we set that, there is a class size limit in 4th and 5th grade, but we try to hold that at 27. That's a lot. And I know she had 26 already in 4th and 5th, and she may get kids that are homeless or that move into our area that, you know, we take. So, yeah, there's just a lot to think about there.
Just keep us posted, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you much.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Next, we have Mr. Haynes.
You go through the funding first before you go to AstroTurf.
Do you want to do that or do you want to do it at the end? We talked about both places.
Let me, if I can jump in on his item,
Okay.
AstroTurf, I just want to, you know, what we are currently doing is a pretty complex thing. You know, you're trying to move along and you're trying to ascertain the damage and generate work that you hope someone will pay you back for. And so I just thought it would be helpful for an overview prior to his updates on the many projects we got going on. So with FEMA being the end of the line, and they will require you to ask them for help at the end of the line, you've got some work throughs. And what FEMA wants to see first from you is, did you have insurance, and did you fully utilize your insurance? How much did they pay? And so that's the first funding source you want to exhaust. And we have done that, not to its fullest extent, but as we went to projects, we utilized insurance and engaged that, and, you know, we'll begin paying our deductibles and authorizing work. The second avenue that you go to is state funds. And as of right now, for public school capital facilities, there are no available funds. However, we've been talking with our local representatives, and they've been great to talk with, as well as our state superintendent. All of them have been real receptive to this idea of we will have capital money that is needed for repairs to our athletic fields. And in some instances, our school buildings and the IT and boardroom. So we will see if those funds become available. And then finally, your last avenue, if you've used all your insurance, there are no state funds available, you advance to FEMA. And FEMA is the final stop in any public assistance that you might get. And they will have required you to go through very specific regulations. The first one is state procurement. Did you bid the project? Was the work performed by a licensed contractor? Did you have a set of plans for doing said work? And so you have to have all of those things in place for the state to award you money. So you do all those things on the front end. And hopefully, if there are no state funds and you make it to FEMA, then you've sufficed all the regulations. So I just thought it'd be helpful. It's a big jigsaw puzzle, but when you think about it in those terms, it's actually pretty linear. The state's going to require you to do pretty much what FEMA does: expire your insurance, see if state funds are available, and then you advance to FEMA or federal funds. And wanted to let you know on all these projects, that's exactly what we're doing, following either insurance requirements initially, or if we feel like insurance will not cover it, then we will use our state procurement guidelines so that we meet their requirements and then in turn meet FEMA's.
And then if we get state money, then FEMA's out, correct?
And we certainly hope we get state money because, you know, I don't want to disparage, but it does take a good amount of time to recover the money that you have to put up front to ever get that money back. We're still closing out for Tropical Storm Fred. I signed a document just today, as a matter of fact. And that was 3 years ago.
Just for your reference, that was 3 years ago, right?
That's correct. So, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Now,
Thank you.
as he talks about these projects, you'll know that's the process we're following.
Yeah, so for information, for a couple projects here, first one, just an AstroTurf report. Just wanted to let you all know that we'll actually have the final walkthrough on that field tomorrow morning at 10, and then it will be completed. So they were able to go in and restore the turf to its like new condition. They were able to, first they scrubbed and took all the silt and debris that was on top of it off. They then removed all of the infill, so the pellets, the sand, the stuff that's in the turf. They removed all of that. They sanitized the turf, with a hospital level disinfectant, kills everything on contact. They then filled it back up with everything that's supposed to be in it. Actually, excuse me, when it was empty, they also were able to cut it, open it up, fix the aggregate underneath in places where it kind of dislodged. There was no issues with the drainage system under there, so that was great. But they were able to fix that, sew it back together, fill it, sanitize it again. And again, like I said, they were doing the final fill. The rubber pellets that they put in there were arriving today at 3, so they were filling that this afternoon, and they were going to do some finishing touches, punch list and whatnot, and we're going to walk through it tomorrow morning. So that's where that one's sitting. AstroTurf's been great to work with. They've done a phenomenal job. And just to refresh you all, that was about $308,000 for that job, and it was covered by insurance. There's a $100,000 deductible, and then the rest of that will be covered by insurance for that and the fence around the field, and everything should be finished up tomorrow.
Historical reference, I'll jump in. We're going to tag team this as much as we can so that we can get as much information out to the public as possible. One of the things that has helped us, this board and previous administration decided to do things the right way the last time. Last time was much slower, and there are some key factors in why it was so slow. First of all, the field itself, as well as the stands and all, sat on a piece of land that was not recognized by FEMA. It did not exist in the flood map. Nor was there a permit to be there. We had no permit, not for the structure, not for the utilities, not for the water, the electrical, and so we pretty much had to obtain that last time. After you got through the flood mapping, and after we got through the permitting, then you had to have drawings of everything. And they had to be engineered or architectural drawings, because you're going to hand those drawings to a contractor to perform the work, a licensed contractor. So then we had to wait on plans. And then once the plans were in place, you could hand those off to the contractor, and the contractor would perform the work once you could get them scheduled. So it was a pretty lengthy process, but kudos to all that made the right things occur last time, because this time has went so much better as a function of that. So, all right, next project, Mr. Haynes. Sorry.
No, you're good. I appreciate it. So the next thing is electrical engineer report. That's number 9 on here. This is just information as well. So we contracted with Reese Nolan McElrath. They walked through all the electric at all the facilities that flooded, and then wrote us a narrative on how to fix it, because we do have an electrician that works for us, maintenance for Haywood County Schools, and so he's certified to do all that repair work, if able to an extent. You know, if it's too much, we would contract somebody out. But from what Reese Nolan McElrath gave us in that narrative, really in a nutshell, it is anything where the water came up into the box. If it was completely submerged, we would have to replace it. We didn't have any boxes that were completely submerged. We had ones that it went up, you know, a little bit of ways on the bottom. We have to clean those boxes out. Any breakers that were touched by that would have to be fixed. Any areas where wires are connected together below that, we've got to undo, dry everything off, and then redo with waterproofing sealant, which is really what was there before in 2021. But it seems as though it's something that our electricians should be able to go through and fix, and so they are currently working towards that off of that narrative from Reese Nolan McElrath right now.
So none of our boxes were completely submerged?
That's
Electrical.
correct. That's correct.
There were,
None of the panel boxes.
Duke Energy did have some pad transformers that sit on the ground that were completely submerged, but they will come through and look at those and
Yeah.
make whatever repairs they need. And once those repairs have been, that have taken place and we've met the needs of the electrical engineer's report, then they'll energize those transformer pads.
Correct. And so while the water was higher this time than it was in 2021, because we had to raise everything on those stands or above grade, however it was, or above the flood line, it did keep the majority of the box out of the water. Like I said, some of them did get in the water, the bottoms of them, but for the most part, even especially the ones that are on the roadside between the visitor side and Canton Middle, the water didn't even touch those boxes on that side that work those lights. So it got up right below them, but it actually didn't hit those.
That's good news.
So, yep, that was good.
Now, is the town still gonna have to come inspect those or sign off on them once we get them fixed?
Yeah, so Reese and Olin McRath will come through and check and make sure we did everything the way that we were supposed to per their narrative, and then the town and county inspection will come through and check off too. That's correct. All right.
Still like the grade.
Next one is SDR report, or Southern Disaster Recovery. And so that is the contract that you all approved at our last meeting that piggybacked off of the county's contract for their cleanup crew. And these guys have been really phenomenal too. They have went above and beyond, and they've worked and taken care of stuff. Their main guy, Clay, he calls me 2 or 3 times a day. What else do we need to get? Where do we need to go? Where do you need us? You know, so on and so forth. So they really have been great. But preliminary cleanup has been completed at all sites. They've moved all the large objects and debris and fencing that has fallen down or needed to be disconnected because part of it was broken. They've taken it and put it up to the curb so that it can then be hauled off. They removed all the muck and mud that were on pathways, the thick stuff. Our other contract with Neo, they've been doing a great job too. They're going to come through and spray off and do the deep clean type stuff. But these guys, they've scraped everything. You know, on like Pisgah's baseball field, there was probably 6 to 8 inches of silt in some plots, probably even closer to 10 in the far outfield. And so they've scraped all that off and they've got it piled up and ready to be taken and disposed of too, so they really have done a great job. And it's been very efficient.
Are they through or are they still in process?
They're still getting odds and ends. Like for example, as Neo moves to the visitor side of the stadium to clean, when they go into the concession stand, there'll be stuff in there that we can't salvage that they'll take out and they'll put, you know, outside of the concession stand. SDR will come pick it up, take it to the curb. And so I'm just kind of staying in touch with them as stuff like that pops up. But for the most part, all the sites, fencing, things like that, they've all been cleaned up.
And they're still under contract?
What's that? I'm sorry?
They're still coming in under contract?
Yeah, so I actually signed some timesheets for them Monday. And I asked, I said, so how are we looking money-wise? Where are we at? And he thought for a second. He said, y'all are good. I right now, I think you're going to come in under. So that's good.
So now to clarify, you said anything that wasn't salvageable, we moved everything out
Yes.
of concession stands, anything that was down there that could have been damaged or washed away.
That's correct. Our schools did a really good job of getting just about everything out of there. So warmers, popcorn machines, all that stuff for concessions, for example, all got moved out. Football pads, all that stuff got moved out. What I meant by stuff that couldn't be salvaged is there's Pepsi coolers that we had asked Pepsi to come get. They did not get. So those are now able to be thrown away. There are some tables and stuff in the concession stand that just took too much water and it swelled up. So we're going to have to get something new in there. But that kind of stuff is what I meant.
Just to
yes.
clarify.
No, thank you. I
People
appreciate that.
listening.
Yes.
We learned from the
Yes.
last time.
We learned from the last time. Yes. Our schools did a very good job.
You said something about 3 tractor trailer load of stuff out of the stadium area, is that right?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. I'm glad they did.
They did. They did a really good job.
Kudos to the schools for that. You still up? Or is it now the Dr. Pup?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine's pretty simple. I just wanted to let all of you know that we did not receive for a third year in a row the State Capital Infrastructure Fund grant. That's the SCIP grant that you hear about. We did not receive that. I talked to State Superintendent Truitt as to why, just trying to learn more about it. And we're gonna have to be further along in our planning. Like most of the schools that were awarded that, they already had a set of plans and a commitment of funds for a match from the county commissioners in their county. So we're learning the cocktail here that we have to mix to be, to get that grant. And so we'll keep trying until we get it, because we desperately need the State Capital Infrastructure Fund grant.
Very good. We'll keep trying.
That's right.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
And then moving to item number 12, House Bill 149. I'd just like to say again that our local delegation, Senator Corbin, Representative Bless, our state superintendent, Catherine Truitt, have been excellent. They always answer my call when I call them. And it's not a business line that I'm calling. They've given me their personal cell numbers, and they're readily accessible. So I'm grateful for that, and a lot of what I had discussed with them, they put in House Bill 149, and I'm going to hit just a few highlights. House Bill 149 was signed into law by the governor, and the really important thing for me was, and at the very onset of this, obviously number one was safety, but then number two, making sure our employees were paid. 11 days for some of our employees, that's a really hard amount of time off to accept. They count on it, and it's critical to their living and lifestyle. And so I was concerned over this entire 11-day stretch that we were not coming to work, that they wouldn't get paid. But House Bill 149 will pay for all of our employees. They will be held harmless. We're still working through personnel groups. But I know Ms. Moody and her crew has been working relentlessly to make all of that happen. If you'll remember, just ahead of that, even prior to the state taking any action, this board decided to do the right thing and also pay additional money or bonus money, emergency money, whatever name you want to put on it, for those employees who actually had to come into work while everyone else got to stay at home. We needed them more than they needed us. And I'm talking about cafeteria workers who had to go to Jonathan Valley and Bethel Elementary to create hot meals for workers and community members and what have you. I'm talking about transportation who fueled emergency vehicles throughout, from onset of the storm to the end. I'm talking about IT members who were trying to get our communications back up so that we could contact kids and be ready for school when and if that time comes. And so I'm sure I left some groups out there or others, but emergency or bonus pay, we really want to do something special or additional for those employees during those 11 days. And this board has already voted to find some monetary compensation. I continue to beat that drum with legislative contacts and our state superintendent, as well as North Carolina School Board Association, and anyone else who will listen to me. I really feel like the state should pay that emergency pay, but I'm glad this board is willing to pay it, whether the state does or not. And again, that's for a small group of people It's only for those 11 days that they were physically having to come in and work, and it is above and beyond the whole harmless provision which applies to everyone. And so I hope that is clear. And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I said jumped out of order, so that was item number 13 that I was just covering. And I'll jump back up to item number 12, which is also about House Bill 149. The other thing that was real important to me was insult to injury, as I see it, would be for our kids to have to make up those 11 days. And our kids have suffered enough. They don't need to suffer anymore. And so I really wanted calendar flexibility or waivers. I advocated with the same constituents I just named. And kudos to all of them for making that occur. There is flexibility for students. Up to 20 days can be waived. It's as if they were here. And so I'm thankful, as bad as all this has been, that we do not now have to look at our kids at the end of the year and go, sorry kiddo, we're going to have to keep you another 11 days, because that's how many we miss. So I'm very grateful for that. There are some other particulars that I'm still working with that group. Again, our legislature, as well as State Superintendent Truitt, around accountability. Do we have to test? If we don't test, what are the negative consequences for our principals who operate on performance-based pay? And so I continue to work around some really important issues surrounding school, but I would just say that I'm very thankful for House Bill 149 and the flexibility and the hold harmless for our kids and staff. Are there any questions on it? Jenny Wood, I asked her to be here because she's going to remember something I didn't.
We need you to approve the calendar I have submitted to you for,
You got a
that-
copy?
that is forgiving the 11 days. And we're just going to move forward and, you know, hopefully we won't have too bad of a winter, but we'll follow the same weather plan as just moving forward. But we do need this approved because I have to turn it in.
So we didn't, Ms. Wood, we didn't lose any annual leave, holiday, optional teacher work days?
No.
Okay,
No.
perfect.
Those turquoise blue days are the ones that we're asking for
Gotcha.
forgiven days, just like kids were here.
Gotcha.
So, what's the last day before, but does it look like it changed? It looks like the last day was the 22nd before, and then is this the last day? I'm just trying to.
No, the last day's the 30th.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I see. Thank
So
you.
the last day's the 30th and it's still the 30th.
Perfect, okay. I forget we have two different schedules, sorry, thank you.
Do we need to do them separately, or can we just approve the calendars?
Yeah, you can do the calendars as presented.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendars as presented, to waive the days we missed.
Second.
There it is, Morris. I always called you Ferguson.
That'd be okay.
That'd be okay too. We have a motion from Mr. Francis, second from Ms. Morris. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? If you're opposed, I think you'd be crazy in the head. Anyway, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That's great. That's great news.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Good work. Jeannie, good work. Dr. Putnam is working with our legislative group, and be sure and thank them from us as a board that they've worked with us. And I look for them to work with us even more on the funding piece of some of these other projects and things. So anyway, thank you. All right, next is Mr. Haynes again. A lot of stuff going on, Mr.
Yes,
Haynes.
sir. Lots going on. Chairman Francis, board members, for you all, for both information and approval, if you so choose, is a contract with Civil Design Concepts, or CDC, to oversee its contract administration and construction observation for our baseball and softball fields, both at Canton, Pisgah, and Tuscola, that got hit by Hurricane Helene. So with the fields, the fence is insurable, the dugouts can be insurable, but the fields themselves are not. That's something that we either have to pay for, or we have to pay for and then hope that we get reimbursement from FEMA on. So one of the requirements of FEMA in something like this is to have designs and plans and things like that, and a company to oversee the process, or a business, an engineer to oversee the process of the rebuilding taking place. And so this, CDC did this last time in 2021 for Tropical Storm Fred, for our fields at Pisgah and Canton. Again, in addition, it would be Tuscola this time around. Dr. Putnam talked about procurement guidelines and stuff like that when it comes to FEMA. If it's under $50,000 for an engineer, you do not have to do an RFP and request for proposal and actually bid that out, seek that out. It makes sense for us to not in this case. We've worked with CDC a lot in the past, but also they did this work for us before, so they're familiar with these fields, how they work, they've got the designs, all that stuff. The Pisgah fields and the Canton fields all come in under that $50,000 threshold. The two Tuscolas, because that hasn't happened to them before, they haven't been flooded, so they do not have concept designs, they do not have the permitting that go along with it and stuff like that, and so those are a little more expensive as far as their services go. It takes them above the $50,000. However, also FEMA has exigent circumstances where you can select somebody, and in this case I think it would make sense to, because we are familiar with CDC. They did great work for the baseball fields in Canton for us previously, and by not going through the process, we would actually be able to hopefully get this done as quickly as possible and get the kids back on the fields, before their season starts next year. Total cost of that, and it's the contract is done separately because it's per site, and that's the way FEMA does it. Everything is per site and what it costs at that site. But just for ease of that, and I'm happy to go through each one if you'd like me to. You think that's better? I'll just do that. I'll do it that way. Canton Middle softball is $17,000. Canton Middle baseball is $24,000. Pisgah softball is $22,500. Pisgah baseball is $27,600. And again, those all already have designs, so that would just be contract administration and construction observation only. And then for the Tuscola fields that need designs, permitting, and concepts, Tuscola softball is $63,000, and Tuscola baseball is $79,000. So those all totaled together would be $246,100.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the CDC contract as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Rogers.
Second.
Second, Mr. Henson.
How long are they telling us it's gonna take to do the design concepts and the permitting for the Tuscola and softball and baseball field? Because, if we're gonna use a max bet, I want them to get on it and do it.
Sure. I know they're motivated, as we are, to get it done. They're community people as well. I don't want to give you a false timeline, but I do think they're going to expedite it and get it done as quickly as possible. The goal is to have them back on.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
So if they can expedite, please, please, please.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, I know, we don't have the designs for the Tuscola.
Sure. Those will take slightly longer just because there is a design phase and stuff. But I've asked for them to get me some expedited designs in the past couple days for odds and ends.
Because if we're gonna do it for
And
all
they've
they
gotten
need
me
to-
stuff very quickly. So I feel like, now there is measurements and they're gonna have to go down there and do a lot more in depth, but I feel like they'll be able to get them to us very timely.
Any other questions or comments before we vote?
Are we thinking about moving Tuscola's field?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
No.
I don't think that's what's included in this.
So there is, I'm glad you say that. So in that design, we did ask, because in building grounds, there had been talk, and this is pre-flood, there'd just been talk about potentially turning the softball field so that it butt up to baseball, and they were both, hitting, kind of starting at the same place, with concessions and everything. It would be right in the middle, dressing room, everything, right? And so obviously that is going to be a higher cost on getting the field done if we were to do something like that. It would also slow down the process of them being able to get on the field. This does include the 3 designs. So one design would be fixing it as is, getting them back on there, which FEMA would cover and they would reimburse us for because it's like for like with FEMA. Option 2 would be laser grading, making sure everything's flat, perfect, resodding, making other changes we saw fit, but leaving them as is, turned the way they are. And then option 3 would be turning softball and doing everything else in option 2.
Laser grading is FEMA eligible. It's when you turn the field or you add additional structures, you're FEMA ineligible.
So laser grading is not part of like for like? They weren't laser graded to begin with? That wouldn't be considered like for like?
I mean, I guess jump
Yes,
in there on that. Okay.
laser grading is eligible.
Okay.
What would make it ineligible is if you turn the field and you create unlike or not like for like structures.
So would we go from 3 options down to 2, eliminating option 2, which is?
Option 3 would be eliminated, because that would be turning.
So the difference in, the reason he's giving you 3 options are timelines.
Okay, timeline, okay.
And, some really good baseball players,
Right,
and you don't want them to miss their season.
Right.
You don't want them to be without a home field. Laser grading may be time prohibitive, but it certainly won't be cost prohibitive.
well, let me ask you this, if we chose, coming from building grounds, to turn Tuscola softball where it should have been the whole time, could they proceed with Tuscola baseball like for like option A, and it would be done, and we run the risk, take the risk on option 3 on just Tuscola softball, or is that one cohesive unit?
I will want to get final confirmation on this, but I think they treat the site as a project.
Okay,
One
so
project.
that's one project.
But let us ask that question, and make sure it's within the FEMA guidelines.
Okay. Thank you.
They may look at both fields as a site, and therefore will treat that site as a like-for-like adjustment. Or they may look at it and go, no, this is a ball field and this is a ball field. But let us.
How did FEMA look at Pisgah baseball and Canton softball since
They
they
got
touched?
laser graded last time, didn't they?
They did.
Yes.
Do they look at that as one unit, Pisgah baseball and Canton middle baseball? Or is that 2 units since it's middle, high school, and high school?
They were separate.
They were separate, okay. I figured since they were middle.
And one thing that I guess in my mind too, between option A and B, and maybe it's not, and maybe I said it wrong, there was not, so fencing wise, infield wise, especially for softball, for the Tuscola fields, there was destruction with the water going through, but their outfields really did not get all the silt and sediment piled up on them like what happened at the Pisgah and Canton fields. And so really the outfields with some reseeding would probably be okay. But then, I mean, and you'd definitely be ready to go for the season, but then, you're not fixing the grade of the field, which those are not, they're a little bumpy.
Sure.
So I think in my mind,
It's kind of swampy down there.
that's the A, B, C in my mind too, so sorry if I didn't
So
explain
did
that.
business field get enough mud and grass?
There's no-
They're gonna have to be
There's
laser graded as
there's no
well?
grass left on them.
Okay, so they're gonna have to be laser graded as well, so how can they be ready and laser graded and Tuscola's
set
not.
of plans.
Right, that's the slow down
Plans to
spot
give
there.
to a licensed
That's what I
contractor.
say, we need to
Sure, right,
do that. Okay.
So to clarify, we are actively looking for land to move fields, especially Pisgah fields, particularly stadium, but we will, that's a 2 or 3 year process. So the only reason we're trying to fix these fields with the insurance deductible is so these kids will have fields to play on, because we don't seem to have access to other fields, except maybe in Bethel. So I just want to clarify that we are actively going to be looking to move everything that has been flooded.
sure. Yeah, oh, we absolutely are, and I know we're all exploring options there. But, we've got to renovate and get back so the kids can play and go, and then we also have to push, and I know you as a board dedicated to do that last time, and we're working towards it.
Speaking on permitting, what Jim just asked, we dropped the ball on this, myself included, to not have done this for Tuscola baseball and softball already. Are there any other fields that we need to do this for in the school system to go ahead and get them mapped, so if this does ever happen to those again, we're not behind the eight ball?
We probably will end up doing it for all of them. I imagine, I think it's Mr. Burnett or someone wisely said, flood maps are getting ready to look very
Right,
different.
they're gonna expand.
Right.
I mean, so, what comes to mind, Bethel's brand new football field, and then Bethel, baseball and softball that's actually at the elementary school. We probably need to go ahead and start on that immediately in case
Well,
this.
in Waynesville Middle,
Waynesville
baseball and
Middle.
softball
Yeah.
would be ones
Yeah.
I'd worry more
Right.
about than those.
I said we just do all of them, that way they're on.
I agree.
As long as it costs us not.
Sure, I can inquire with CDC about what it would cost to do that and go
Right.
ahead and get
Right.
designs and
Right.
mapping so that in the event something happened, we'd have.
Right,
Yeah.
we need to be prepared.
Sure.
And if we couldn't afford all of them, we could
Do
do the ones that
them
are
at a
most
time.
likely to go on.
Correct, absolutely, sure.
That won't happen again.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments before we vote? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
You got
absolutely.
some more stuff I'd say.
Yeah, well, so I guess we really started talking about grading for baseball, softball in that last one. But I did want you all to know that at least some preliminary numbers as far as the Canton Pisgah baseball, softball fields go. And again, we don't have the Tuscolas yet because we've got to get the designs and everything before they can really bid out the work and then get us a number. And they haven't bid out the work yet either, but this is just kind of preliminary, knowing what it was last time, what materials are, and already having those plans. Probably looking at about $900,000 on fixing those 4. So the 2 Pisgahs and the 2 Cantons, and I just wanted to throw that number out there so that you heard it, and can kind of, process it for a bit before we get the bids, and they could come in less, but there could be more, so I kind of want to just give you an idea.
Thank you. I'd rather kind of know what we're looking at.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, next is the Education Center, the EC Center.
Yes, so, and this is just informational as well, unless you all feel compelled to make a motion this evening to decide to do something with the EC. So the EC being the boardroom in Clyde there on Broad Street, as well as training spaces that encompasses. So there's a couple options there. First, we could fix it and, start using it again. We did get one estimate, and so we would have to get some more to truly base it, but just to give you an idea now, the estimate was just under $1.2 million to get it fixed. Insurance, there'd be a $100,000 deductible, but insurance will cover up to $1.4 million for that building. So it would, minus the deductible, cover the expenses of fixing it if we wanted to. We also, or you all also have the option to take the actual cash value of the property, or what it's deemed to be, which is what we did at Central Haywood there next door a year probably ago. So that would be that value or that number for the estimate less 30%, so we get 70% of that, and that will be the walkaway. So that walkaway number, of course, then you also have to subtract the deductible. So the 70% of that number was $836,500 minus the deductible, so it'd be $736,500 if you wanted to do that. The other option would be to demo and just move on. Insurance will cover the demo costs at 100%. But we have put out an RFQ for bids to do the demo work there and at Central Haywood next door, just to kind of see what it's going to come in at and what we're looking at. So I wanted to give you all the options. I do not have any numbers on demo costs as of right now.
If we take the money and walk away, what happens to the buildings?
It's still our property, so they're still our responsibility, but we just take the insurance proceeds and put them in somewhere else, whatever we want to do with them, really. But we would have to eventually do something with those buildings on that property, because they're just sitting there and they would be a liability, because no one would be there watching them or occupying them at all.
If we took a payoff, we'd have to go to debt payoff first.
The actual cash value would not.
We'd have to go to debt.
That's if the property's gonna
Correct.
change.
If we
Then we'd
sold
have
the
to bring it to
property.
debt ratio.
Yes, correct,
I'd like to know the numbers of the cost of the demo
absolutely.
first
Yeah, so let's
before we
get
do
that.
anything. This is my personal, I'm not saying not to make a motion or to make a motion, but my opinion would be, I'd like a little more information.
Sure.
I feel like, if I wanna be a good neighbor down there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is
I
there-
agree with that.
Do we know about the structure of the building? Was any of the structure, foundation compromised?
We haven't had anybody look at it in that sense. If we were gonna repair it, that's definitely
And
something
that
that we
used to
would
be a
look at to
gym,
do.
correct? So there's still some ceiling space. Is there any mitigation in the insurance to be able to raise the floor level up to above the floodplain in that building, since you've got extra?
Not that I'm aware of. If we were going the FEMA route, there'd be mitigation required down there.
I mean, I would hate to see the elevation plate, you're gonna need.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Right.
You know, I'll tell you.
We're on the second floor, but-
You'd be on, you'd be on the second floor, but.
Best I can tell, we had about 9 feet of water
Yeah.
running through
Yeah.
what already elevated the old Central Haywood High School. It doesn't set perfectly level down on the ground, it has steps. And it was 9 feet in its hallways.
Yeah, in the
About
EC.
accurate, Kim?
Yeah, in the EC, Chairman Francis, behind where you sit, the Haywood County Schools logo behind you, the water was halfway up. That's where you can see the water line on the wall.
Just
So-
a
Oh,
thought.
absolutely. No, no, I get it.
So this is a thought if we were
Yes,
to go back.
absolutely. So again, nothing has to be done tonight. It really was information more than anything, but if you wanted to make a motion, of course, it's there, but.
Everybody all right with just moving
I
on?
think we need to have all the
Just get the
information.
information
I'm
first.
leaning towards demo.
Sure, I think there's about a week left on that RFQ, so we should have that fairly soon.
I do have one question, 'cause I'm not sure. So if we take the cash value, 736, and they will still pay for the demo? It's one of the.
No, sir, if we
Well,
take,
it's one or
yeah, it's
the
one or
other.
the other. If we
Okay,
take
that's
the
what
cash value,
We own it,
We
then we're
own
gonna
it.
spend 800 to demo it.
Yeah.
Okay.
potentially, yeah,
I don't know what it costs,
sure.
whatever.
Right. But if it costs $1 million to demo, they would pay the full cost of
Okay,
demolition.
well, let's get the numbers, like I
Yeah,
said.
absolutely.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
One thing we did not do, which I wanted everybody to hear, was the structural report, the structural engineer's report.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you was gonna mention it with
Okay.
building grounds motions.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do it.
We'll leave it there. I think it's coming out with building and grounds.
Yeah, so we can do it now, so just, we can flow right into it, then we'll do the, number 17 last, and we'll just, if everybody's okay with that. We're changing our agenda right in the middle of the meeting.
Sorry about that.
Adjustment to the adjustment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So Chairman Francis, members of the board, we did receive both, about noon today, both the structural engineering reports on Pisgah Memorial Stadium, in particular the home side and the visitor side of the stands. Both engineers did concur that structurally they were sound and they were good with that. They both did have some things that they wanted to see fixed before they would officially sign off that they were, good to occupy and for everybody to get on them. One in particular, if you've driven by, you've seen it, the water pushed one of the rows of seats out on the right side where the band sits on the home side, just from the pressure there on the back, and really the way those are built, they're just scaffolds, so we should be able to, and of course it'd be more technical than this, but should be able to lift it up and slide it in or reset those. There was some, on the fencing on the outside edges, those poles that hold that fencing up, there was some corrosion there. They wanted us to shore those up and just attach them better in a couple places. And they didn't think that was flood related, just something over time that they'd like to see fixed. There was underneath the student section like a couple hairline cracks, which they said could be flood related, could be just lots of students being on them over the years and jumping up and down a lot. But they wanted to see a support placed underneath there. And then also, one of them had a concern about the press box and just kind of the way it sits. And so we're looking at the old reports to see if that was in there from 21. If it was, he said, then it's fine. It was a pre-existing thing, the flood didn't cause it. And if not, then we needed to shore up that as well. But aside from that, structurally, the pillars, the footers, everything, they felt very confident that, from their reports at least, that, structurally it is sound.
Before we do anything, we'll get more information, correct?
Yes, so
Okay.
so we will look into what those costs are as quickly as possible to fix those things, and then I'll come back to you so that we can.
And again, if this
move
board
forward.
needs to meet to move forward, let's do it. Okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
You're gonna share those reports, and can you share those reports with us in some way? So
Yes, I actually printed them off. I had copies for you. I brought them closed upstairs. I got them. Yes.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
I brought them down. I'll get you one before you leave.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anything else on that report? Before we go on?
I just wanted to make sure we get
Yeah.
all the reports.
Absolutely. Next item is Dr. Putnam on the request for some funding.
Yes, sir. I'm asking that the board approve a request for state sales tax in the amount of $900,000 for flood recovery. If you'll remember, we did this in 2021. We pulled down or made available to our finance department to pay money. All of the repairs, all of the work that we do is pay first and get reimbursed later. So we need cash flow or money on hand. And so this is what we did in 2021, and I would ask for approval or the board to make a motion to do the same. Ms. Moody's already got budget codes set up, and she will attach this money to those Helling budget codes. Some of it will be content, some of it will be structure, and they will, it's just a good way to track the money being spent so that when it comes time to ask for reimbursement, we know exactly how much that was. One point of clarification, this $900,000, I don't want anybody to think that that will cover all the costs for repair. This is for cash flow, preliminary cash flow for those items that we're currently working on.
Yeah, another clarification, this is not the $900,000 to pay for the $900,000 football field either, or the fields.
That is correct.
Because it looks, I mean, it's,
Right.
we just,
Right, yeah.
fields are 900, now we're gonna get 900.
Yeah, we received no
Total-
official quotes
yeah.
on the baseball softball
Yeah.
field at all. That was an
So,
estimate.
yeah.
Total commitment thus far is 519, 520. That's the total commitment. 85,000 for Neo. The football field repair was 308, but we only paid 108 in deductible, or excuse me, 100 in deductible. So we're utilizing our insurance money as fully as we can.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we do request from the county or state sales tax allocation amount of $900,000.
We have a motion from Mr. Rogers, do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Clark. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next we have our building and grounds.
First, we have a motion to approve the quote for Neal Corporation to complete the partial boiler chimney demolition at Canton Middle School, paid for from capital funds.
Second.
We have a motion, Mr. Burnett, second, Mr. Nesbit.
I'm just out of this vote.
Okay,
That's my employer.
all right. Mr. Clark is that your name? Mr. Clark? brain damage here somewhere. I did fall down this morning, so maybe that's what happened. Anyway, Mr. Clark is going to abstain from voting due to the fact he has a conflict of interest because that's his employer. Is that correct, Mr. Flanders?
Yes.
That's the way to do it.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
We have a motion and a
I'll
second.
talk about it.
All right, very good. Want to keep it legit. We have a motion from Mr. Burnett and a second from Mr. Nesbit. Any question or discussion further on the motion on the floor?
This was something that was being planned before the flood.
Yes.
This is not a
Yeah,
flood-related
No, that's up to the floor.
expense, okay.
Correct. It's a safety issue, correct?
It's a
Major.
safety issue, the old boiler system, the stack on the Kent Middle School, the concrete is beginning to deteriorate between the brick. And so if they don't lower it, that whole column could fall, and the school could fall on.
It is something that building and grounds had talked about a couple months ago, and
I missed
Yeah,
that.
they actually had bids.
Yeah.
Okay.
correct.
Another reason we need a new middle school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's it before this is
Correct. So this one and the next one are both regular building and
Okay.
grounds motions.
Pre-flood decisions.
Correct.
Okay.
Normal stuff.
Normal, okay. Next.
Then we got-
Oh, we got to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next is a motion to approve Carolina Hardwood and Construction for RFP 9-24. It's a 5-year annual refinishing wood gym floors, countywide contract.
Do we have a motion, Mr. Burnett?
So,
Second, Mr. Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
Can you elaborate? We're just gonna have them under contract, is that what you're saying?
Well, they do them, I think,
on a rotating
And
basis
rotating.
through all
That it's the
gyms.
normal refinishing that happens at Christmas and then sometimes all the gym floors countywide.
So it's-
And they were who had the contract last time we put it out. They were the only ones that did this time.
What was the name again?
Carolina Hardwoods.
Carolina Hardwoods,
Okay.
yeah, they've done it before. They do a good job.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
It's all right. Any other questions or comments before we vote? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, next is a motion to approve a quote from Fencescapes to replace the perimeter fencing at Pisgah Memorial Stadium at a cost of $57,250. And that is flood related.
That is what it is. Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Burnett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Henson. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor?
So that's the big perimeter, you're saying all the way around, right?
Yeah, big perimeter.
I would like to saw us get the results back on a few things on this. The fence needs to be done, the fence scapes has been great, I would just like to saw a few evaluations done first.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Are we still gonna bid out the other fencing projects?
Yes, yes. The reason this one,
Cause I could get to it right now.
well, they're the only company that talked to us about it, that was gonna put in a bid, that was able to get it done by November 8th. if that's the goal, to get that done
And
before
we're still
that
gonna
game.
go to bid out the other ones.
Correct.
They may be
Yes.
the one.
Yeah, and they're doing the other ones as well, as are, 2 or 3 other
They're using
companies that we've reached out to. Yes,
But it has to be done for protection.
Yeah.
Kids,
Yes.
correct.
School,
Yeah.
Premises, yes.
until we get the building.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we know if they finished the other projects that they were doing at Waynesville Middle School and others?
So the gates for the fence at Waynesville Middle, the front part, the big gates and stuff, the roll gates, those actually wash down the river in one of their storage facilities. So those are coming again to them, so he's gonna get on that. He actually said his plan is to be running 2 concurrent crews, one at Waynesville to finish all the fencing there, and the other one at Pisgah to get it done, and have them both done at the same time,
Okay, thank
or
you.
around about, the same time. So yes,
And all their other
that's the reason that one is
All
sad.
their other projects are finished that they have done.
They also got the fence quote for the farm fence at Tuscola, and as soon as they're done with these, they're gonna go there.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Good discussion. There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
We have 1 negative, motion carried. All right, there being nothing else to come before the board, again, thank you for your time, and again, we'll meet as needed. Meeting adjourned.